The Spanish media discourse is absolutely poisoning the fan base right now. And honestly, I don't blame people for being furious. The comment sections are on fire.
60 comments, and the overwhelming majority of them are not about football. They're about journalists. That tells you something about where the headspace of the fan base is right now.
One fan put it bluntly, and I'm translating directly here, they called José Luis Sánchez the most disgusting thing there is. That's not a take, that's a verdict. The jury has deliberated.
And another fan went after a different media figure, calling out what they described as an old vampire going after any Barcelona player representing Spain, a nauseating attitude. Now, the irony is that Madridistas are defending Spain internationals from Barca, and the common enemy is the pundit class.
That's the thing, Theo. When the media discourse gets toxic enough, it actually unites fans across club lines in their hatred of journalists. Que barbaridad. That's an achievement in its own twisted way.
There's also a fan making an interesting prediction. They're saying Madrid are waiting until Laporta is back as Barca president in June before going after him for things he said and wrote in his book. Whether that's true or not, the fact that fans are strategizing about institutional warfare tells you this isn't going away.
The Spanish football media ecosystem is genuinely broken right now, and the fans feel it. It's not even about Madrid versus Barca anymore. It's about whether you can get through a broadcast without someone being nakedly dishonest. And the answer, apparently, is no.
What I find fascinating is that this is the dominant topic on a week where we have a derby win, still relatively fresh in memory, a Champions League victory at the Etihad, and a Mallorca match in 3 days. And people are angrier about pundits than any of that. That's a special kind of fury.
Okay, let's talk about Vinicius, because madre mia, this one never ends. The Brazil national team situation is becoming a saga that feeds itself. Fans here are defending him, but the context is genuinely painful.
2 former Brazilian internationals, Luis Fabiano and Fabio Luciano, came out and said, essentially, "You're not Neymar, you're not a genius." And the Madridista response has been, let's say, pointed.
One fan put it perfectly. They said Vinicius is right, full stop, just he's right. No elaboration needed. And another fan made this brilliant observation about a pundit who suddenly defends booing. They said if the booing were directed at Vini, he'd find a way to blame Vini for it. That's the kind of hypocrisy that drives people absolutely crazy.
And we covered the Brazil-Vini dynamic in yesterday's episode too, so fans are clearly not done with this one. The treatment of Vinicius by sections of the Brazilian football establishment has become its own ongoing wound. We touched on it, but the comments keep coming.
What kills me is the man just scored twice in the Madrid derby, including a penalty and a goal from open play, one at the Etihad in the Champions League, and people are still out there saying he's not a genius. Like, what metric are you using?
The metric is not Neymar, apparently. Which is a fascinating standard given where Neymar's career is right now. But look, the emotional core of this for Madridistas is simple. They see their player being undermined by people who should be his biggest supporters, and it stings.
Vamos, let's move on to something that's going to matter very soon, the Bellingham puzzle. Because Arbeloa has a genuinely interesting problem to solve, and the fanbase has opinions.
Right. Bellingham is back from the international break, and the question is how you fit him back into a midfield that has been functioning really well without him. Arda Güler has been exceptional. Valverde was incredible before the red card. Tchouaméni has been solid. So who makes way?
And this is where it gets spicy, because fans are already picking sides. The Arda faithful are not willing to sacrifice their guy. The Bellingham believers think there's no debate. You play Jude. And then there's the Brahim contingent who are quietly panicking.
What's interesting is that Bellingham came on as a substitute against Atletico in the derby, alongside Camavinga. And the team still managed to hold on, despite going down to 10 men. So there's evidence he can contribute off the bench. But is that good enough for a player of his quality? The fans are divided.
Bielsa, of all people, weighed in on something adjacent to this, saying that Valverde has versatility that neither Pedri nor Vitinha can match and could win the Ballon d'Or. And Madridistas are using that as ammunition in the "don't mess with the midfield" argument. If it's not broken, Theo.
Bielsa saying Valverde has Ballon d'Or potential is not nothing. That's not a random pundit. That's one of the most respected tactical minds in football. And given that Fede has been arguably the best player on the pitch in the last 3 or 4 matches before the red card, the fan base is very receptive to that framing.
The Mallorca match is in 3 days, and that Bellingham question will be answered then. I cannot stop processing the permutations. Arbeloa with Arda, Bellingham, and Valverde all fit. That's a luxury problem, but luxury problems still need solving.
And speaking of Arbeloa, there's a detail from the news cycle this week that I think perfectly captures the vibe of this squad right now. Camavinga said Arbeloa sometimes brings donuts and cookies to training after sessions. And I know that sounds trivial, but it's not.
It's not trivial at all. You want to know why this squad runs through walls for each other? Donuts, Tio. It's the donuts. I'm only half joking. Squad culture matters, and Camavinga talking warmly about his coach in public is a signal.
The man beat Mourinho, Guardiola, and Simeone. He's bringing baked goods to training. He's solving a Bellingham midfield puzzle with about 6 elite options. Arbeloa is having a very good spring, and fans are starting to genuinely believe in him as a manager, not just as a caretaker figure.
We've also got the Modric reunion story floating around. Vinicius, Endrick, and Ancelotti apparently had this warm moment with Modric after a Brazil friendly. A fan asked if Luka had a Brazilian grandfather. I love that. The man is simply loved everywhere.
It's a small story, but it feeds into something the fan base clearly needs right now. Warmth. After weeks of media warfare, referee rage, and Brazilian pundits sniping at Vini, seeing a genuinely human moment involving former and current Madrid players lands differently.
Hala Madrid, honestly. 3 days until Mallorca, the midfield debate is about to become very real, and the media critics are sharpening their knives. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back with more. Same time, same energy.
Tomorrow's episode will still be pre-Mallorca, so we'll be deep in build-up mode. If you've got takes on the Bellingham question, or if you just want to vent about Spanish sports journalism, you know where to find us. Hasta mañana.